The last thing I felt was not the shove in the center of my back, but the betrayal icing over my heart. The world tilted, the glittering lights of Shanghai City smearing into violent streaks of gold and white. The wind stole my scream, whipping the silk of my dress into a frantic, useless flag. And there she was, leaning over the railing of my own balcony by Shui. Her face, usually a mask of curated sweetness, was twisted into something primal and victorious. Her eyes, dark and gleaming, didn't watch me fall, they devoured it. You refused to exchange happiness with me, her voice, laced with a venom I'd only ever suspected, echoed in my memory. So I'll just take it. Then, the abyss swallowed me whole. I woke with a gasp that tore at my throat, my lungs burning as if they'd forgotten how to breathe. My hands flew out, scrambling for purchase, finding only the slick, cool leather of a car seat. Wait. A car seat? Blinking against a sudden, brutal assault of sunlight, my vision cleared. I was surrounded by an ocean of pristine white silk and intricate gold thread. A kunqua. My wedding kunqua. The heavy, embroidered fabric was stiff and unfamiliar against my skin, a costume for a day I'd already lived. My heart hammered against my ribs, a frantic bird trapped in a cage of bone and memory. This wasn't the afterlife. This was the past. The scent hit me then, cloying and suffocating jasmine. My gaze dropped to the bouquet clutched in my white-knuckled hand. A perfect, cloud-like sphere of starry white jasmine blossoms, their sweetness so thick it felt like a physical weight in my chest. In my previous life, I'd loved that bouquet. Now, the smell made me nauseous. May? You okay? You're as white as your dress. The voice came from the front seat. Old Uncle Feng, our longtime driver, was watching me in the rearview mirror, his brow furrowed with concern. I couldn't speak. My mind was a fractured mosaic, pieces of two realities slamming together. The cold terror of the fall. The warmth of this car. The hate in Bai Shui's eyes. The concerned kindness in Uncle Feng's. And then I saw it. Parked right next to us, obnoxiously close, was a vintage Rolls-Royce Phantom, a vehicle so ostentatious it verged on vulgar. It was dripping with pink roses and satin ribbons. My blood ran cold. I knew that car. Tap. Tap tap tap. The sharp, impatient rapping on my window made me jump. Slowly, as if moving through syrup, I turned my head. There she was. Bai Shui. The woman who would murder me. She was pristine in her Western-style white gown, a vision of manufactured innocence. But even through the tinted glass, I could see the calculated gleam in her eyes. In one hand, she held a phone, its screen pointed right at me. Live streaming. Of course. In the other, she held a pathetic, wilting bouquet of pink carnations, the kind bought cheaply from a street vendor an hour before. May. Lin May. Roll down the window, sweetie. Her voice was a sickly sweet sing-song, amplified and projected for her online audience. It's such a wonderful coincidence, our cars meeting like this. You know the tradition. My stomach churned. The tradition. A completely fabricated piece of nonsense she'd popularized on her channel. When two brides meet on their wedding day, they must exchange bouquets to share their happiness. A beautiful sentiment, weaponized. In my first life, I'd been baffled, then repulsed. My bouquet, a masterpiece of peonies and orchids crafted by a renowned florist, for her sad, drooping carnations? I'd refused, politely but firmly. The clip of my refusal, expertly edited by her, had been the spark that lit the inferno of my ruin. Bride. Bai Shui chirped, her smile straining at the edges. Don't be shy. Your viewers are so excited to see you. Exchanging bouquets shares our joy. Otherwise, well, it's just bad luck, you know? Her eyes, sharp and hungry, kept darting past me, trying to peer into the car's shadowy interior. She wasn't here for the flowers. She was here for him. She was searching for a glimpse of Jia Wei, the man she had secretly coveted since their school days, the man she believed I had stolen. A cold, sharp clarity cut through my panic. The fog of rebirth lifted, replaced by a crystalline focus. I was back. I had a chance to do it all over. And this time I wouldn't just defend myself. I would strike back. May, what should I do? Uncle Feng whispered, his hand hovering near the window controls. She's making a scene. I took a slow, deliberate breath, the scent of jasmine filling my lungs. No. Not this time. It's okay, Uncle Feng, I said, my voice surprisingly steady. I'll handle it. With a calm I didn't know I possessed, I reached behind me, my fingers closing not around the jasmine bouquet, but around the other one I had secreted away on the seat. The one I'd paid a bewildered florist an exorbitant amount to create just an hour ago, a strange request I'd made on a gut feeling I now understood was a memory from the future. I rolled down the window just enough to show my face, using my body to block the view of the seat behind me. Bai Shui, I said, layering my voice with a fragile politeness. What a surprise. Your bouquet is lovely. But mine isn't really presentable. How about I give you a box of the wedding candies instead? They're from the finest patisserie in Shanghai. Her smile tightened. She shoved her phone closer, the live stream comments probably scrolling a mile a minute. Oh, don't be silly. I'm sure your bouquet is beautiful. Come on, everyone wants to see it. Don't you want us both to have happiness? There are 80,000 people watching. They won't bless your marriage if you're so stingy. I let a look of helpless resignation cross my face. I sighed, a soft, defeated sound. Well, since you put it that way, and it's for tradition, how can I refuse? Bai Shui's eyes lit up with naked triumph. The hunter who had cornered her prey. I slowly, pushed the car door open. The sunlight hit me, and the city sounds rushed in. I stood, a vision in red and gold, and turned to face her fully. Then, I revealed the bouquet from behind my back. A collective gasp, both from the small crowd that had gathered and from Bai Shui's phone, echoed in the sudden silence. It was a large, loosely gathered sheaf of flowers. But they weren't peonies or roses. They were chrysanthemums. Stark, solemn, beautiful white and yellow chrysanthemums. In our culture, they were the flowers of grief, of remembrance, of funerals. Bai Shui's triumphant smile shattered. She stared, her mouth slightly agape. I offered her my sweetest, most sorrowful smile. Today is the death anniversary of my third great-aunt, I explained, my voice clear and carrying, ensuring every word was picked up by her live stream. She raised me. Her final wish was to see me marry the love of my life. So, I carry these chrysanthemums to honor her memory and to tell her, in the only way I can, that I am happy. I extended the bouquet towards her. If you don't mind the sentiment, Bai Shui, let's exchange. Let's share our happiness. The color drained from her face. She looked from the funeral flowers to my serene face, to her phone, which was doubtless exploding with a chaos of comments. She was trapped. To refuse now would be to slap her own carefully crafted, tradition-loving persona in the face, in front of 80,000 witnesses. Just as she was stammering, I don't, Uncle Feng, beaming with pride, leaned over and called out, oh. You're that Bai Shui. The one who spoils her fans. My granddaughter watches you. She said you were going to exchange bouquets with the first bride you saw. What a lucky coincidence. The final nail in the coffin. Bai Shui's escape route vanished. Her eyes met mine, and for the first time, I saw not just hatred, but a flicker of fear. She knew. She knew this was no longer the naive woman she could easily bully. Her hand trembled as she reached out, her fingers brushing against the chrysanthemum petals as if they were poisoned. She reluctantly shoved her own wilted carnations into my free hand. Thank you, I said, my voice a soft, deadly whisper meant only for her. I'm sure we'll both be very happy. I watched as she stumbled back to her garish wedding car, the funeral bouquet held stiffly in her hand, a symbol of the bad luck she so feared, a curse she had willingly taken from me. And as I closed my car door, the scent of jasmine was finally, blessedly, gone. Replaced by the clean, crisp, and utterly satisfying fragrance of revenge. The car door clicked shut, sealing me in a bubble of sudden, profound silence. The roar of the city, the murmuring crowd, Bai Shui's shrill voice, all of it was muffled into a distant hum. I leaned my head back against the cool leather, my heart still performing a frantic tap dance against my ribs. The scent of Bai Shui's cheap, wilting carnations filled the car, a cloying stench of petty victory and profound failure. I had done it. I had changed the script. Uncle Feng, buzzing with excitement, turned in his driver's seat. Did you see her face, May? Priceless. Serves her right, trying to swap those sad-looking flowers for your beautiful. His voice trailed off as he finally registered what I was holding. May, those are, for funerals. They're for remembrance, Uncle Feng, I corrected softly, my voice steadier than I felt. I looked at the carnations in my hand with distaste. Pull over at the next corner, please. I need to get rid of these. As he navigated back into traffic, I rolled down the window and let the carnations go, watching in the side mirror as they tumbled and scattered on the asphalt, being crushed under the tires of the world moving on. A small, symbolic act of cleansing. My phone, tucked into a hidden pocket of my kun kwa, began to vibrate incessantly. I pulled it out. Dozens of messages flooded my screen, mostly from my bridesmaids in the car behind us. Xiaoling, head bridesmaid MEI. What was that? Is everything okay? Another bridesmaid, the live stream is going crazy. Bai Shui looks like she saw a ghost. Xiaoling, also, your husband is about to break down the door. He saw her at the window and tried to get out. We're holding him back but he's freaking out. What's the plan? A cold dread that had nothing to do with Bai Shui washed over me. Jia Wei. In my first life, he had gotten out. He'd snatched Bai Shui's phone, his face a mask of protective fury, and told her off in no uncertain terms. It was the moment she'd captured the handsome, angry groom and twisted into her narrative of a threatening, volatile man. That, combined with my stinginess, had been the perfect fuel for her fire. Me, Xiaoling. Do not let him out of the car. No matter what. Tell him I'm fine. Tell him it's handled. Tell him I love him and I'll explain everything at the hotel. This is important. I put the phone down, my hands trembling slightly. The adrenaline was receding, leaving behind a bone-deep exhaustion and the chilling clarity of memory. I closed my eyes, and the ghosts of my first life rushed in. The cyberbullying started as a drizzle and became a hurricane within hours. The edited clip of me refusing the bouquet was titled "Stingy Bride Scorns Tradition, Denies Another Bride Happiness." Bai Shui's follow-up livestream, where she cried delicate, perfect tears, was the masterstroke. I was just trying to share the joy, she'd sniffled, her bottom lip trembling. I never thought she would be so cruel. I hope this doesn't bring bad luck to my marriage. Her fans, a digital army of devoted snowflakes, mobilized. They found me. They always find you. My name, my workplace, my social media, everything was doxed. Then came the fabricated stories. I was a gold digger, a homewrecker, a former hostess from a shady nightclub. My husband, they claimed, was a balding, lecherous old man in his 70s. The photoshopped images were grotesque. The final straw was the funeral wreaths. Dozens of them, delivered to our new home's doorstep. The crimson paint splashed across our pristine white door looked like blood. I became a prisoner in my own life, peering through blinds, jumping at every doorbell ring. Jia Wei's company stock dipped from the negative press. The light in his eyes, the one I loved most, began to dim under the relentless pressure. And then, months later, the apology. Bai Shui, standing at my door, her face a mask of contrite sorrow. I just want to talk, she'd said. To apologize properly. I, foolishly, yearning for any resolution, any return to normalcy, had let her in. The push. The falling. The wind. I jerked my eyes open, sucking in a sharp breath. The wedding car was still moving. Uncle Phone was humming a folk tune, oblivious. I was safe. For now. But the battle had already begun. I could feel it in the digital air. I opened the video app and went straight to Bai Shui's channel. Her live stream had ended, but a new, hastily edited video was already pinned to the top. The thumbnail was a close-up of her tear-streaked face, the title screaming, "My wedding day ruined by a malicious bride." I clicked play, my stomach a hard knot. She was in the back of her wedding car now, still in her gown, holding my chrysanthemums like a poisonous snake. The camera work was masterful, shaky, intimate, making her seem vulnerable. I don't know what I did to deserve this, she whispered, a single, perfect tear tracing a path through her makeup. I just wanted to follow a beautiful tradition. I thought we could share our happiness. She held up the chrysanthemums. But she gave me these. These. On my wedding day. Does she wish death upon my marriage? Upon me? She broke down into sobs, the picture of devastated innocence. I don't want anyone to attack her, please. I'm sure she had her reasons. But to be so cruel, on today of all days, she looked directly into the camera, her eyes wide and wounded. If there's any unhappiness in my future, I'll always know where it started. It was a near-perfect replica of her first live performance, only now the prop was infinitely more powerful. The comment section was a torrent of rage. At Snowflake Warrior, that witch. Using funeral flowers? I hope her marriage dies. At Justice for Baishwe, someone find her address. Let's send her a real funeral wreath. At Truth Seeker, who gets married on a death anniversary? She's clearly cursed. Poor Baishwe, this was it. The opening volley. But this time I wasn't a helpless target. I took a screenshot of the most violent comments, especially the ones threatening doxing and violence. Then, I opened my contacts and found a number I had saved after a recommendation from a legally minded friend. The name simply read, Zhang Jia, ESQ. Titan Law Firm. I typed a quick, professional message. Me, Ms. Zhang. My name is Lin Mei. I am being subjected to a coordinated online defamation and harassment campaign, including threats of violence and doxing. Evidence is being gathered in real time. Are you available for a retainer? The response was almost instantaneous. Zhang Jia, ESQ, send me the details and the primary instigator's social handle. I'll have my team start monitoring. We can discuss terms when you're free. Do not engage publicly yet. A wave of relief, so potent it made me lightheaded, washed over me. I had a general. Now, I needed to address my people. I opened the bridesmaids group chat. The panic was palpable. Me, everyone, breathe. I'm okay. What you saw was me dealing with a bully. She has been spreading lies about a tradition to scam expensive bouquets from brides. I called her bluff. The chrysanthemums were for my beloved great-aunt, a woman of immense honor. Baishwe is now trying to spin this to play the victim. Do not engage with any comments you see. Do not post anything. Screenshot everything hateful and send it to me. This is a legal matter now. Then, I typed a private message to Xiaoling. Me, is he calm? Xiaoling, barely. He's pacing in the back of the limo like a caged tiger. He knows something's wrong. You're going to have a very concerned husband waiting for you at the altar. I smiled for the first time since I'd woken up in this car. A real smile. Jiawei protectiveness was a force of nature. In my first life, it had been misdirected, used against us. This time, I would channel it. We're almost there, May, Uncle Feng announced, pulling up to the Grand Hotel where the ceremony would be held. Ready for your big day? I looked at my reflection in the darkened screen of my phone. My face was pale, but my eyes held a new, steely resolve. The gentle, trusting woman I had been was gone, replaced by someone who had stared into the abyss and learned its rules. I was born ready, Uncle Feng, I said, my voice quiet but firm. The car slowed to a stop. Today, I'm not just getting married. I'm declaring war. The hotel lobby was a sanctuary of muted gold and soaring ceilings, a world away from the gritty drama of the street. As I stepped out of the car, the weight of my elaborate kun qua felt different, no longer just the costume of a bride, but the armor of a warrior. A wave of staff and coordinators descended upon me, their faces masks of professional cheer, shepherding me towards the private bridal suite for final touches. But my focus was elsewhere. My eyes scanned the bustling pre-ceremony area, and they found him instantly. Jia Wei. He was standing apart from the groomsmen, his back to the laughter and clinking glasses. His shoulders were tense, his knuckles white as he gripped his phone. He'd changed into his traditional groom's attire, a dark blue hanfu that made him look like a nobleman from an ancient scroll, but his posture was all modern-day agitation. Our eyes met across the crowded room. The chaos around us seemed to slow, the noise fading into a dull roar. His gaze, usually so warm and steady, was sharp with a frantic worry I recognized from my nightmares. He was already moving towards me, cutting through the crowd with a single-minded intensity that made my breath catch. May. My name was a ragged sigh of relief on his lips as he reached me, his hands coming up to cradle my face. His thumbs stroked my cheeks, as if reassuring himself I was real, unharmed. What happened? Xiaoling said there was a problem. That woman. Baishue, was she harassing you? I saw her car. I tried to get to you, I know, I interrupted, covering his hands with mine. His warmth was a tangible anchor in the swirling storm of my emotions. I'm sorry. I had Xiaoling stop you. It was the only way. Confusion clouded his eyes. The only way? May, if someone is bothering you, especially on today of all days, I'm supposed to be there. To protect you. This was the core of it. His instinct to shield me was one of the things I loved most about him, but in our first life, it had been our Achilles heel. You are protecting me, I said, lowering my voice so only he could hear. By staying in that car, you protected us both. She was live streaming, Jia. She had her phone in my face. If you had gotten out, if you'd confronted her, what do you think that would have looked like to 80,000 strangers? The angry groom versus the innocent bride? She would have spun it into a story of you being aggressive, controlling. The realization dawned on his face, followed by a fresh wave of anger, colder and more dangerous this time. She set a trap. Yes. And I walked us around it. I squeezed his hands. I handled it. He searched my face, his gaze lingering on the new, unfamiliar steel in my eyes. The chrysanthemums, that was handling it? A small, grim smile touched my lips. It was a preemptive strike. She wanted to trade her 30 yuan carnations for your 3,000 yuan floral masterpiece. She wanted to exchange happiness. So I gave her a bouquet that represented my truth, not her fantasy. She took the unlucky flowers on camera, in front of everyone. The trap sprung on the trapper. For a long moment, he just looked at me, his expression unreadable. I braced for him to be upset, to question my methods. Then, a slow, proud smile broke across his face. It was like the sun emerging from a storm cloud. You magnificent woman, he murmured, pulling me into a fierce, brief embrace that smelled of sandalwood and safety. You turned her own weapon against her. The tight knot of anxiety in my chest finally began to loosen. He understood. He was with me. It's not over, I whispered into his shoulder. She's already posted a video playing the victim. The online harassment has started. His body tightened again. Then we fight. Together. What's the plan? The wedding coordinator, a flustered woman with a headset, chose that moment to swoop in. Mr. Lee. Ms. Lin. You cannot see each other before the ceremony. It's bad luck. Jia Wei didn't let go of my hand. He looked at the coordinator, his expression shifting back to the charming, effortless grace he wore in public. We're making our own luck today, he said smoothly, but his grip on my fingers was a silent promise. We're in this together. He was led away, casting one last, lingering look over his shoulder. I was swept into the bridal suite, where my bridesmaids awaited, a flock of anxious, beautiful birds in their lavender dresses. May. Tell us everything. Xiaoling demanded, her hands on her hips. For the next 20 minutes, as a makeup artist powdered my nose and a hairdresser secured my headdress, I gave them a sanitized version. I framed it as me standing up to a scammer, protecting the memory of my great-aunt. I showed them the lawyer's contact on my phone. I didn't mention the fall. I didn't mention the depth of Bai Shui's obsession. Some burdens were mine alone to carry. So, Xiaoling said, her eyes gleaming with militant excitement. We're not just bridesmaids today. We're the inner circle. The War Council. She held up her phone. We're screenshotting every nasty comment. It's like a game of digital whack-a-mole, but with lawyers. I felt a surge of gratitude for these women. Thank you. But for now, forget the phones. For the next hour, I just want to get married. I want to remember what this day is really about. The ceremony was a blur of incense, ancient vows, and the overwhelming love in Jia Wei's eyes as we knelt before our families. When our hands were bound together with red silk, the symbolism felt more profound than ever. We were bound not just in matrimony, but in a pact to survive what was coming. It was during the banquet, as we moved from table to table for toasts, that Xiaoling found me again. The celebratory noise was deafening, a stark contrast to the quiet dread coiling in my stomach. May, she said, pulling me aside near a towering floral arrangement. Her face was serious. I'd been digging. You said she went to school with Jia Wei? I nodded, taking a sip of water to steady myself. I went through his old class photos. It took a while, but look. She showed me her phone. It was a scanned image from a yearbook. A group of teenage students, their faces young and unformed. My eyes found a young Jia Wei instantly, all lanky limbs and a confident, easy smile. Then, Xiaoling pointed to a girl at the edge of the frame. She was heavy-set, with a sullen expression, thick glasses, and a pronounced overbite. She was glaring at the camera as if it had personally offended her. The caption below read, Zhao Lihua. That's her, Xiao Ling whispered. Bai Shui. Before the name change. Before all of it. I stared at the photo, a cold understanding settling in my bones. This wasn't just about a bouquet. This was about a lifetime of resentment. The plane overlooked Zhao Lihua, watching the handsome, popular Jiao Wei from afar. And then watching him marry someone like me, someone she would perceive as ordinary, unworthy. My success was the final insult. She hadn't just built a new face and a new life, she had built a persona she believed was finally good enough for him. And I was in the way. The pieces clicked into place with a terrifying finality. Her actions weren't just those of an influencer chasing clout, they were the scorched earth policy of a deeply jealous and unstable woman. Just then, my phone vibrated with a new message. It was from Zhang Jia, the lawyer. Zhang Jia, ESQ, the evidence package is substantial. We are ready to proceed. We've also identified the primary accounts inciting violence. One in particular, Snowflake Warrior, is particularly vicious. We are preparing to file the first wave of lawsuits tomorrow. Get through your wedding. We'll talk in the morning. I looked up from the phone, across the room at my husband, who was laughing at something his grandfather said. He looked so happy, so unburdened in this moment. I had seen the face of the girl in the shadows. I had a general and an army at my back. The first legal missiles were locked and loaded. The wedding was over. The war was just beginning. The silence in our new apartment was profound. The last of the well-wishing relatives had departed, leaving behind a trail of confetti and the faint, lingering scent of wedding banquet food. The grand, modern space, with its floor-to-ceiling windows showcasing the glittering tapestry of Shanghai City, should have felt like a sanctuary. Instead, it felt like a command center on the eve of battle. I stood by the window, having changed out of the heavy kun kwa into soft silk pajamas. The adrenaline that had carried me through the day had finally ebbed, leaving a hollow, trembling exhaustion in its wake. I could feel the phantom sensation of the fall, the wind whistling past my ears. Strong arms wrapped around my waist from behind, and Jiao Wei rested his chin on my shoulder. You've been quiet for an hour, he murmured, his voice a low vibration against my back. The War Council has disbanded. It's just us now. I leaned back into his solid warmth, drawing strength from it. I was just thinking about the last time we stood here. It was the truth, layered with a meaning only I understood. In this apartment? May, we just got the keys yesterday, he said, sounding gently amused. Not here, exactly, I evaded, turning in his arms to face him. I meant this feeling of being on the edge of something. The calm before the storm. His smile faded, replaced by that focused intensity one loved. Then we faced the storm together. What did the lawyer say? As if on cue, my laptop chimed from the dining table, which was now buried under wedding gifts and my legal notepad. We moved toward it, our hands still linked. It was a video call request from Zhang Jia. Her profile picture was a stark, professional headshot, a woman with a severe black bob and eyes that missed nothing. I took a steadying breath and accepted the call. Ms. Lin. Mr. Li, Zhang Jia began, not wasting a second on pleasantries. Her face, sharp and intelligent, filled the screen. The background was a minimalist office, all concrete and steel. I trust the wedding festivities concluded without further incident. It did, thanks to my wife's quick thinking, Jiao Wei said, his voice firm. The possessive pride in the word wife sent a thrill through me. Indeed. The chrysanthemum maneuver was creatively ruthless. I approve. A flicker of something that might have been a smile touched Zhang Jia's lips. Now, to business. The digital forensics team has been working through the night. The harassment campaign is highly organized. A core group of about 20 accounts, likely managed by Bai Shui's inner team or paid trolls, are responsible for seeding the most damaging narratives and inciting the wider mob. She shared her screen, displaying a complex web of connections and data points. These are the primary amplifiers, she continued, pointing to several usernames. But our primary target for the first wave is this one. She highlighted the account at Snowflake Warrior. This individual has not only made repeated threats of violence but has also been instrumental in disseminating your home address and calling for the delivery of symbolic items. A cold dread trickled down my spine. Symbolic items? Before Zhang Jia could answer, the intercom for our building's front desk buzzed, sharp and intrusive in the quiet room. We all froze. Jia Wei walked over and pressed the button. Yes? Mr. Li? This is security at the front desk. There's a delivery for you. It was left at the main entrance. The security guard's voice was strained. What kind of delivery? Jia Wei asked, his eyes meeting mine. It's a floral arrangement, sir. A wreath. The air left my lungs. So soon. It was happening even faster this time. Don't bring it up, Jia Wei said, his voice dangerously calm. I'm coming down. He grabbed his keys and was out the door before I could protest. On the laptop screen, Zhang Jia watched, her expression grimly satisfied. Perfect. This is no longer just about online defamation. This is trespass, harassment, and threats delivered to your physical doorstep. The evidence is now tangible. A few minutes later, Jia Wei returned, his face a mask of controlled fury. He didn't have the wreath, but he held his phone, showing a photo he'd taken downstairs. It was a large, circular wreath of white lilies, and I felt a bitter twist in my stomach. Yellow chrysanthemums. A stark, white ribbon across it bore no name, only a single, chilling word: congratulations. They used chrysanthemums, I whispered, my voice trembling with a fury that matched Jia Wei's. It was a direct, mocking response to my bouquet. Excellent, Zhang Jia said, her tone clinical. The symbolism is clear and malicious. This directly links the online incitement to a real-world act. My team will subpoena the florist's records immediately. This gift is the best thing that could have happened to our case. Someone sending a funeral wreath to my wife on our wedding night is not excellent, Jia Wei snapped, his composure cracking. Legally, Mr. Li, it is, she countered, unflinching. It transforms our narrative. We are no longer just suing for hurt feelings. We are pursuing justice for a targeted campaign of terror. Now, back to it, Snowflake Warrior. Her fingers flew across her keyboard. We've successfully petitioned the platform to reveal the user's information behind the account due to the imminent threat. The name is Gao Jun. He's a 19-year-old student at Shanghai Technical College. A picture of a pimply, sullen-faced young man appeared on the screen. He's a minor celebrity in Baishua's fandom, Zhang Jia explained. He moderates her largest fan group. We are preparing the lawsuit against him for defamation, incitement to violence, and violation of privacy. We will be seeking significant monetary damages and a public retraction. What good will that do? He's just a kid, Jia Wei said, running a hand through his hair in frustration. He is a weapon, I said, my voice quiet but clear. Both of them looked at me. Baishua loaded him, aimed him, and pulled the trigger. If we break the weapon, the person holding it loses her power. And it sends a message to every other snowflake out there: the cost of attacking us is real, and it is high. Zhang Jia gave a sharp, approving nod. Precisely, Ms. Lin. We break one, and the others will scatter. We will be filing the lawsuit first thing in the morning. The media has already been tipped off. This will not happen in the shadows. After finalizing the details, we ended the call. The room was silent again, but the energy had shifted. The fear was still there, coiling in my gut, but it was now joined by a sharp, anticipatory thrill. Jia Wei came to me, pulling me into a tight embrace. I hate this, he muttered into my hair. I hate that our first night as husband and wife is being poisoned by this filth. I looked up at him, cupping his face in my hands. It's not poisoning it, I said, meaning every word. It's defining it. We're not just promising to love each other. We're promising to protect what we have. Tonight, we started. Together. He searched my eyes, and I saw the anger in his slowly morph into a determined resolve that mirrored my own. He leaned down and kissed me, a deep, claiming kiss that held all the promises of our vows and the unspoken pact of our shared battle. Later, as we lay in the dark, my head on his chest, listening to the steady, reassuring rhythm of his heart, my phone lit up with a notification. It was a news alert from a major online media outlet. Breaking: bride from viral, chrysanthemum wedding files landmark lawsuit against cyberbully. Legal titan Zhang Jia represents newlywed Lin Mei. I showed the screen to Jia Wei. In the dim light, his teeth flashed in a wolfish smile. The first salvo has been fired, he whispered. I snuggled closer, watching the lights of the city. Let her hear it. The morning after the lawsuit was announced, the digital world felt different. It was no longer a lawless frontier where Baishue's trolls could run rampant. Zhang Jia's first salvo had landed with the force of a meteor, and the crater it left was public, undeniable, and littered with legal precedent. My phone, which had been a relentless source of anxiety, was now buzzing with a different energy. News outlets, previously content to regurgitate Baishue's viral clips, were now running sober analyses of cyber harassment laws, featuring soundbites from a stern-faced Zhang Jia. The headline had shifted from bride drama to landmark case in online abuse. I sat at our new dining table, sunlight streaming in, scrolling through the comments on the news article. They were a fascinating mix. At Business Analyst, finally, someone fighting back with the law instead of just posting tearful videos. This Lin Mei is shrewd. Respect. At Law Student, the case against at Snowflake Warrior is airtight. This will set a powerful example for parasocial relationships and the limits of fandom. At Baishua True Fan, this is a witch hunt. Mei is using her money to crush an innocent fan. Free SNOWFLAKEWERRIOR, but even the supportive comments were tinged with a morbid curiosity. The narrative of the chrysanthemum bride had taken on a life of its own. Look at this, I said, turning the screen to Jia Wei, who was making coffee. They've started a hashtag the truth behind the chrysanthemums. People are speculating wildly about my great-aunt. Some are calling her a tragic war heroine, others think she was a mystical figure who gave me magical powers. Jia Wei brought over 2 steaming mugs, a wry smile on his face. Let them speculate. It keeps the story alive and makes you a more sympathetic figure than the stingy bride Baishue tried to paint. Mystery is your ally right now. He was right. The ambiguity surrounding my motives was a shield. But I knew that to win the war, I needed to control the narrative, not just benefit from its chaos. My thoughts were interrupted by a call from Xiaoling. Mei. Turn on entertainment now. Hurry. Jia Wei found the remote and switched on the large wall-mounted TV. A popular entertainment news show was on, and the hosts were discussing our case. And in a shocking turn of events, the female host was saying, "We've just received confirmation that Luminous Skies Cosmetics has announced they will not be renewing their ambassador contract with Baishue, citing a misalignment with brand values. This is her 3rd major sponsor to drop her this week." The screen split, showing a paparazzi clip of Baishue. It was a far cry from her usual curated perfection. She was leaving what looked like a lawyer's office, dressed in a simple black hoodie, her face bare of makeup. She looked tired, ordinary. When a reporter shouted a question about the lawsuit, she didn't smile or cry. She flinched, ducking her head and hurrying into a waiting car without a word. The male host shook his head, a theatrical gesture of pity. A stunning fall from grace. From the nation's sweetheart to a defendant in a multi-million yuan lawsuit in a matter of days. It seems the happiness she tried to exchange wasn't so stable after all. I muted the TV. The schadenfreude was sweet, but it was a fleeting victory. A cornered animal was the most dangerous kind. You're thinking about what she'll do next, Jia Wei stated, reading my expression. She's lost control of the story. Her sponsors are abandoning her. Her reputation is in tatters. I met his gaze. She has 2 options, complete surrender, or a desperate, all-out attack. And Baishue doesn't strike me as the surrendering type. As if summoned by my words, my laptop pinged. It was an email from Zhang Jia with the subject line, escalation. Ms. Lin, be advised. Baishue's legal team has made contact. They are not seeking a settlement. Instead, they are preparing a countersuit for intentional infliction of emotional distress and defamation, claiming your chrysanthemum bouquet was a deliberate, malicious act designed to curse her marriage and incite public hatred against her. They are also threatening to subpoena your husband's financial records and your personal communications, aiming to paint you as a calculating gold digger who orchestrated this entire situation for fame and profit. The battle lines are drawn. They are going for the jugular. Prepare yourself. I read the email aloud, my voice flat. The old fear, the one that had haunted my first life, began to stir. They were going to tear our lives apart, piece by piece. Jia Wei's jaw tightened. Let them try. My records are clean. Our relationship is real. They have nothing. But they have lies, and they have a platform, I countered, the memory of the photoshopped images and fabricated stories flashing behind my eyes. They can create something from nothing. The truth doesn't always matter in the court of public opinion. Then we won't fight them there, he said, his voice dropping to a determined whisper. He came around the table and knelt beside my chair, taking my hands. We fight them in a court of law, with the best lawyer in the city. And we fight them here, in our home, by living our lives. We can't let her turn us into prisoners again. His words were a lifeline. He was right. In my first life, I had hidden, allowing the lies to fester in the darkness. This time, I had to step into the light. An idea, reckless and bold, began to form. Okay, I said, a new resolve hardening within me. If they want to see our lives, let's show them. But we'll show them on our terms. That afternoon, I asked Xiaoling to come over with her camera. She arrived, buzzing with curiosity. I didn't put on a fancy dress or heavy makeup. I wore a simple cream-colored sweater and jeans. I sat on the floor of our sun-drenched living room, surrounded by unpacked wedding gifts. Just film me talking, I instructed her. No edits. No filters. I looked directly into the camera lens, imagining Bai Shui and her millions of followers on the other side. Hello, I began, my voice calm. My name is Lin Mei. You probably know me as the Chrysanthemum Bride. There's been a lot said about me, my family, and my motives. I've been called malicious, calculating, and a curse. I paused, letting the words hang in the air. My great-aunt, the woman I honored with those flowers, once told me that a person's character is not defined by the attacks they endure, but by the grace with which they endure them. She taught me that silence in the face of falsehood can be mistaken for admission. So, I will not be silent anymore. I didn't mention Bai Shui by name. I didn't address the lawsuits. I simply spoke about my great-aunt, her kindness, her resilience, her love for her family and her country. I spoke about the value of honoring our elders and the sanctity of family memory. I talked about the pain of seeing her legacy dragged through the mud. And as for my marriage, I said, a genuine smile finally touching my lips as I glanced at Jia Wei, who had moved into the frame to stand behind me, his hands resting on my shoulders. It is built on a foundation of love and respect that no online storm can shake. We chose to get married on that day. To include a beloved ancestor in our joy, not to invite sorrow. Our happiness is not a currency to be exchanged. It is a choice we make every day, and it is a choice we are fighting for. I ended the video there. It was raw, unpolished, and utterly real. We posted it on every platform I had, with the caption, My Truth. Hashtag honoring the past, hashtag building our future. The response was immediate and overwhelming. The comments were flooded with support, with people sharing stories of their own grandparents, defending the importance of tradition, and applauding our quiet strength. The narrative was shifting, slowly but surely, from a sensationalist feud to a story about family, legacy, and resilience. Later that night, as Jia Wei and I watched the view count climb, my phone buzzed with a single, anonymous text message. It contained no words, only a link. With a sense of grim foreboding, I clicked it. It was a live stream from a gossip channel. The footage was shaky, taken through a window. It showed Bai Shui in a lavish but messy apartment, screaming at a pot-bellied man in a stained undershirt, her new husband, the top fan she had married. You worthless man, she shrieked, her voice distorted. This is all your fault. If you were a real man, none of this would be happening. The man snarled back, grabbing a vase and smashing it on the floor near her feet. My fault? You're the one who messed with the wrong woman. You and your stupid flower swap. You've ruined us. The stream cut off abruptly. I showed it to Jia Wei. We said nothing. The desperate, all-out attack we had feared was turning inward. Bai Shui was beginning to unravel, and the world was watching. The fortress she had built of lies, surgery, and stolen moments was cracking, and the real Zhao Lihua was screaming to get out. The war was far from over, but for the first time I felt like we were no longer on the defensive. We had taken the field. The anonymous livestream of Bai Shui's domestic meltdown was like throwing a lit match into a powder keg. It was one thing for the public to watch a curated, tearful victim, it was another entirely to witness the raw, unfiltered fury of a cornered woman. The nation's sweetheart facade didn't just crack, it vaporized. For the next 48 hours, the internet feasted. The clip was edited into memes, set to dramatic music, and analyzed by body language experts. The narrative was no longer about a bouquet exchange, it was about the spectacular implosion of a fraud. I watched it all from a calculated distance, my emotions a complex stew of grim satisfaction and a strange, hollow pity. This was the woman who had murdered me. Seeing her destroy herself should have been a victory. And yet, watching someone's soul corrode in real time, even an enemy's, was a chilling spectacle. Jiawei found me on the balcony, staring out at the city lights. "You've been quiet again," he said, handing me a cup of chamomile tea. "It's one thing to win a battle," I murmured, taking the warm mug. "It's another to watch the enemy's camp burn to the ground with them inside. It feels apocalyptic." He leaned on the railing beside me. "She lit the match, May. She poured the gasoline. We didn't force her to scream at her husband on camera. We didn't force her to build a life on lies." He paused, his gaze sharpening. "Zhang Jia called while you were resting. The discovery process for the lawsuit has begun. They've subpoenaed Bai Shui's financial records and her agency's communications." A cold knot tightened in my stomach. And it's a bloodbath," he said, a hard edge to his voice. "The spontaneous bouquet tradition? It was a planned marketing stunt her team dreamed up 6 months ago. She's done it twice before to smaller influencers, always targeting those with more expensive bouquets, and always editing the footage to make herself look generous and the other bride look rude. So, my first life instinct had been right. It was a grift, polished and perfected. But that's not the worst of it," Jiawei continued. "Her agency has cut her loose. They released a statement saying they were deceived about her character and are terminating her contract. They're throwing her to the wolves to save themselves. The pieces of her empire were not just falling, they were being actively pushed." The sound of shattering glass from the live stream seemed to echo in my memory. The following morning, a package was delivered by courier. It was from Zhang Jia's office. Inside was a slim folder. Attached was a sticky note in Zhang Jia's precise handwriting, "For your records. I thought you should see the foundation of the House of Cards." Frowning, I opened it. It contained photocopies of old medical bills and clinic receipts. Rhinoplasty. Blepharoplasty. Jaw contouring. Cheek implants. The dates spanned several years, a chronicle of the systematic erasure of Zhao Lihua. The amounts were staggering. And the payment methods. Several were from high-interest personal loans. She hadn't just changed her face, she had indebted herself to create it. At the bottom of the stack was a single, grainy photo. It was a screenshot from a private chat log, dated just a week before our weddings. The username was Bai Shui's, and the recipient was listed as Agency Darren. Bai Shui, the target is confirmed. Lin Mei. Marrying Jiawei Li. Her bouquet budget is 5K plus. Her car is a phantom. This is the one. The happiness I need is there. Agency Darren, are you sure? He's old money. That family has real power. Don't poke a beehive. Bai Shui, I'm not poking it. I'm taking its honey. He was supposed to be mine. She's just a placeholder. Once I exchange the bouquets, his fortune, his status, it will all transfer to me. It's my destiny. I dropped the paper as if it had burned me. My legs felt weak, and I sank into a chair. It was even more delusional than I'd thought. This wasn't just jealousy, it was a full-blown fantasy, a psychotic belief in a magical transfer of destiny. She truly saw my life as a prize she was entitled to win. The doorbell rang, shattering the heavy silence. I jumped, my heart hammering. Jiawei was at the office, dealing with the fallout from the news cycle affecting his company's PR. Cautiously, I went to the intercom. "Yes?" "Delivery for a Lin Mei," a bored voice stated. "Another one?" My blood ran cold. "What is it?" "Just a document envelope. Requires a signature." It wasn't a wreath. That was something. I went downstairs, my senses on high alert. The delivery man handed me a slim legal envelope. I signed for it, my hand trembling slightly. Back inside, I tore it open. It wasn't from Zhang Jia. The letterhead was from a different firm, Jing and Associates. It was a letter for Bai Shui. "In light of the irreparable damage to our client's reputation and mental state, Directly caused by your malicious actions on your wedding day, we hereby demand a public apology and the sum of 20 million yuan in damages for defamation and intentional infliction of emotional distress. It was her countersuit. The one Zhang Jia had warned us about. They had officially filed. They were going through with it, based on that mad, desperate fantasy. A strange calm settled over me. The pity evaporated, burned away by the sheer audacity of this legal attack. She was trying to sue me for the consequences of her own actions. She was trying to bill me for the collapse of the house of cards she built. That evening, as I showed the legal letter to Jia Wei, my phone buzzed with a notification from a news aggregator app. Breaking, Bai Shui hospitalized. Sources cite extreme emotional distress. There was no live stream this time. No paparazzi footage. Just a sterile, official statement from her new, desperate lawyer. It was the last card left for a disgraced public figure, the breakdown. I looked at Jia Wei, then at the folder of medical bills, and finally at the legal letter in my hand. The mask was gone. The sweet influencer, the victimized bride, the cunning businesswoman, all were illusions. All that was left was Zhao Lihua, broke, delusional, and cornered, lashing out from a hospital bed. She's playing the only card she has left, I said, my voice quiet but firm. The victim. Jia Wei took the legal letter from me, his expression grim. And what's our move? I picked up the grainy chat log, the one that laid her psychosis bare. We don't play the victim, I said. And we don't attack the victim. We expose the architect. I took a picture of the chat log with my phone. I didn't post it. Not yet. Instead, I attached it to an email to Zhang Jia. They've filed the countersuit. Here is the foundation of their emotional distress. I believe this demonstrates her state of mind and premeditation. The choice of how to use this is yours. The response was swift. Zhang Jia, ESQ, this is conclusive evidence of malice and delusion. The countersuit is now a hollow shell. We will annihilate it in court. Well done, Ms. Lin. I put my phone down. The battle was turning. The unraveling was complete. Bai Shui had nowhere left to run but deeper into her own fantasies. And we held the map to every trap she had laid for herself. The war was not over, but the outcome was no longer in doubt. We had forced the monster into the light, and it was shriveling under the glare. The news of Bai Shui's hospitalization for extreme emotional distress created a strange, suspended silence in the war. The furious torrent of online vitriol from her fans slowed to a trickle, replaced by a somber, waiting stillness. The media, sensing a shift from sensationalism to potential tragedy, adopted a more measured tone. It was a clever move. A villain you can fight. A victim in a hospital bed is a much more complicated target. The silence in our apartment began to feel heavy again, but this time it was the weight of anticipation, not of fear. Jia Wei watched me carefully, his protectiveness a palpable force in the room. She's hiding, he said flatly over breakfast the next day. It's a strategic retreat. She's using a medical crisis to shield herself from the legal consequences and to regain public sympathy. I know, I replied, stirring my congee. And it might work. The narrative could easily flip back to the cruel chrysanthemum bride drove a fragile young woman to a mental breakdown. Then we release the chat log, he said, his voice hard. We show them the fragile young woman was planning a magical theft of our lives just a week ago. I shook my head, the plan having crystallized in my mind during the long, quiet night. Not yet. If we attack her now, while she's in a hospital, we look like monsters. Zhang Jia was right, the chat log is our insurance. It makes her countersuit untenable. But for the public, we need a different kind of move. I looked out the window, at the relentless, shimmering energy of Shanghai City. It was a place of glass, steel, and digital ghosts. I felt a sudden, profound yearning for something solid, something real. Jia, I said, turning to him. Let's get out of the city. Let's go to Heping Village. I want to visit Grey Tant's grave. I need to remember what we're actually fighting for. He didn't hesitate. Okay. We'll go today. The 2-hour drive to Heping Village was like traveling back in time. The sleek highways gave way to winding mountain roads, the glass towers replaced by the deep, enduring green of terraced tea fields and mist-shrouded peaks. As we descended into the valley, the air itself changed, losing the metallic tang of the city for the clean, damp scent of earth and bamboo. The village was a cluster of white-walled, black-tiled houses nestled along a babbling creek. Time moved slower here. Old men played xiangqi under the ancient banyan tree in the center of the village, and the sound of a woman chopping wood echoed rhythmically from a courtyard. We parked the car and walked the final path to the family plot, a quiet hillside overlooking the village. The silence here was different from the apartments. It was peaceful, filled with the whisper of wind through pine needles. I knelt before the simple granite headstone. Lin Qiaoying. Beloved aunt, respected elder. I placed the fresh bundle of white chrysanthemums I'd brought against the cool stone. Hello, great aunt, I whispered, my fingers tracing the carved characters of her name. I'm sorry I brought trouble to your door. I used your memory as a shield. The wind rustled the leaves, and for a moment, I could almost feel her presence not as a ghost, but as a memory so vivid it had weight. I remembered her hands, gnarled and strong from a life of work, gently braiding my hair. I remembered her voice, firm and steady, telling me stories not of princes and palaces, but of resilience, of surviving famine and political turmoil, of holding a family together through sheer force of will. A tree with deep roots laughs at the wind, Xiao Mei, she used to say, pointing to the old oak that still stood guard over her house. I hadn't understood it then. Now, I did. Bai Shui was the wind, howling and destructive. But I had been trying to fight the wind by becoming a stronger storm. I needed to be the tree. Jia Wei knelt beside me, placing his hand over mine on the headstone. His silent solidarity was a balm. She would have loved you, I said, my voice thick with emotion. She always said I needed a man with a steady heart, not just a handsome face. He gave a soft chuckle. I'm glad I passed the test. We stayed there for a long time, not speaking, just breathing in the peace of the place. The digital world, the lawsuits, the hateful comments, it all felt distant and faintly ridiculous here, among the enduring stones and the patient trees. As we walked back through the village, an old woman emerged from a house, her eyes squinting against the sun. Xiao Mei, she called out, her voice raspy. Is that you? It was Auntie Chen, my great-aunt's oldest friend. I smiled and went to her. Yes, Auntie. It's me. She took my hands in her leathery ones, her eyes sharp and knowing. We see the news, even here. That woman in the city, the one causing you trouble. She clicked her tongue. A hollow bamboo, making noise but with no substance inside. You're Qiaoying, she was solid heartwood. You are her blood. Remember that. Tears pricked my eyes. This was the truth, far removed from the hashtags and legal filings. It was the judgment of the land and the people who knew my roots. We had tea with Auntie Chen, and she told Jia Wei embarrassing stories from my childhood, the tension of the past week slowly leaching away. For a few precious hours, we were just a young couple visiting family. On the drive back to Shanghai, as the city skyline reappeared on the horizon, I felt different. The hollow pity for Bai Shui was gone. The frantic need to control the narrative had eased. Auntie Chen was right. Bai Shui was hollow bamboo. My strength wasn't in my ability to outmaneuver her, it was in the depth of my roots, my love for Jia Wei, the memory of my great-aunt, the quiet strength of my heritage. I'm not going to post anything, I said, breaking the comfortable silence in the car. I'm not going to respond to the hospitalization stories. Let her have her silence. We'll have our lives. Jia Wei glanced at me, a slow smile spreading across his face. Now you sound like a true Li, he said, referencing his own family's old money ethos of quiet dignity. Let the wind howl. The mountain does not bend. When we arrived home, the apartment felt different. It was no longer a command center, it was a home. We ordered takeout, opened a bottle of wine, and talked about anything but the lawsuit. We talked about remodeling the balcony, about maybe getting a dog, about where we might travel once this was all over. Later, as we got ready for bed, my phone lit up with a single message from Zhang Jia. Zhang Jia, ESQ, the prosecution has been formally paused due to the defendant's medical incapacitation. The countersuit is in legal limbo. It's a stalemate. Use this time. I showed it to Jia Wei. It's not a stalemate, he said, pulling me close. It's a ceasefire. And we're using it to build a life so full, there won't be any room for her shadows when she comes back. I leaned into him, watching the city lights. The battle wasn't over, but I had finally found my footing. I had remembered who I was. And for the first time since I'd been reborn in that wedding car, I felt not just like a survivor, but like the heir to a legacy of unshakable strength. The wind could blow all it wanted. My roots were deep. The ceasefire lasted for 3 weeks. 3 weeks of blessed, unnerving quiet. Jia Wei and I settled into a fragile new routine. We worked, we cooked meals together, we took long walks through the park, deliberately leaving our phones behind. We were building the full life he had spoken of, brick by careful brick. The digital storm had receded to a distant rumble, but the charge in the air never truly dissipated. We were waiting. The call, when it came, was from Uncle Feng. His voice was tight with a strange mix of excitement and dread. "May," he said, "you need to turn on the live stream. That woman. Bai Shui. She's back." A cold trickle of apprehension ran down my spine. I motioned for Jia Wei, and we gathered around my laptop. There she was. Bai Shui. But it wasn't the flawless influencer, nor the disheveled woman from the paparazzi clip. This was something else entirely. She was streaming from what looked like a lavishly decorated bedroom, but the lighting was harsh, unforgiving. She was gaunt, her famous cheekbones now sharp enough to cast shadows. She wore no makeup, and the faint, silvery lines of recent surgical scars were visible near her hairline and jaw. The physical perfection she had mortgaged her soul for was crumbling, and she made no attempt to hide it. "Hello, everyone," she began, her voice a hollow echo of its former chirp. I know I've been away. I needed time to heal." She offered a tremulous smile that didn't reach her deadened eyes. "I don't even know what to say. I've been through so much. The lies, the bullying. It broke me." She was sticking to the script. The victim. The narrative was fragile, but with her visible fragility, it might just work. "I've terminated my contract with my agency. I've cut ties with all the toxicity," she continued, her hands fluttering nervously. "I just want to be my authentic self now. All the personas. They were crafted by the company. The shoots were scripted. I'm finally free to be me." I could feel Jia Wei tense beside me. "She's throwing her entire team under the bus to save herself." I nodded, my eyes fixed on the screen. It was a desperate, scorched earth tactic, but it had a ring of truth that her previous performances lacked. Because the real her, Zhao Lihua, was a void of resentment, and that was what was now on display. "And now," she said, forcing a brighter tone, "I'm going to focus on the positive. My husband and I. We're going on our honeymoon. A fresh start. I'm so excited to share some amazing travel essentials with you all. It's time to reclaim my happiness." The bedroom door burst open with a force that made the camera shake. "Reclaim your happiness?" a voice roared. Mr. Dang, her husband, stumbled into the frame. He was a large man, his face florid and sweaty, clutching a half-empty bottle of expensive baijiu. The sight of him, in his stained undershirt, was a violent intrusion into her carefully staged authenticity. "All you do is spend my money while thinking of another man," he slurred, advancing on her. "I poured millions into you. I built you. And you. You wanted to swap your happiness? With her?" He jabbed a fat finger toward the camera, as if I were standing just behind it. Bai Shui scrambled backward, her mask of frail victimhood shattering into raw terror. "No. Get away from me. You don't understand. Let you swap. I'll let you swap," he bellowed. What happened next seemed to unfold in horrific slow motion. He didn't use his fist. He swung the heavy, glass baijiu bottle in a short, brutal arc. It didn't connect with her head, but with the side of her knee. The sickening, wet crack was unmistakable, even through the stream's mediocre audio. Bai Shui screamed, a raw, animal sound of pure agony, and collapsed to the floor, clutching her leg, which was already bending at a grotesque, impossible angle. Mr. Dang stood over her, breathing heavily, the bottle still in his hand. "See," he spat at the camera, at the tens of thousands of horrified viewers. "This is what you get. This is a family matter. I was drunk. I didn't know my own strength." Then, as if just realizing he was live, his eyes widened in panic. He lunged for the camera, and the screen went black. The live stream had ended. But the broadcast was over. The world had just witnessed, in real time, the complete and total destruction of Bai Shui. Not by my hand, not by a lawsuit, but by the very happiness she had so desperately tried to steal, a hasty marriage built on sand, which had now collapsed and crushed her. The silence in our apartment was deafening. I felt numb. Jiawei reached over and slowly closed the laptop lid. My God, he whispered. I couldn't speak. I saw it again, the bottle swinging, the leg bending, the scream. It was a different kind of fall, but a fall nonetheless. The justice I had craved was here, and it was uglier and more brutal than I had ever imagined. My phone started ringing. Xiaoling, then Zhang Jia. I let them go to voicemail. The news articles began popping up minutes later. Influencer Bai Shui hospitalized after brutal domestic attack livestreamed to millions. The photos this time were not of a tearful victim, but screenshots from the stream, her contorted face, the broken limb, the drunken husband. There would be no comeback from this. Her body was broken. Her face was scarred. Her perfect life was exposed as a gilded cage with a monster inside. Her husband would likely see minimal jail time, his drunkenness and family matter defense a common shield in such cases. She would be left with nothing but the physical and psychological wreckage. Jiawei was still for a long time, staring at the closed laptop. Back in middle school, he said, his voice distant, she was really good at running. I remember she used to climb over the wall to go to internet cafes. Even the dean couldn't catch her. The irony was so thick it was suffocating. The girl who could outrun anyone was now permanently hobbled. I finally found my voice, though it was just a whisper. I don't feel happy. He pulled me into his arms. I know, he said into my hair. This isn't a victory. It's a tragedy. She chose this path, May. She chose a man who saw her as a thing to own. She chose a life built on lies. You didn't do this to her. You just refused to be her stepping stone. I knew he was right. Logically, I knew it. But the horrific, public spectacle of it left a stain on my soul. I had wanted to defeat her, to expose her, to see her face consequences. I hadn't wanted to witness her annihilation. Later that evening, as we sat in the dark living room, a final news alert flashed on my phone. Mr. Dang had been taken into custody. The report stated that Bai Shui's injuries were severe, the damage to her knee was permanent. She would walk with a pronounced limp for the rest of her life. The girl who ran was gone. The woman who pushed me was broken. The war was over. There was no one left to fight. The silence that returned was no longer a ceasefire. It was the quiet of a field after a battle, empty except for the echoes of the fallen. We had won. But as I sat there, safe in my husband's arms, the taste of victory was ashen and bitter. The silence that followed Bai Shui's final broadcast was different. It wasn't the tense, waiting quiet of before, but the deep, settling silence of a storm that has finally passed, leaving a washed clean world in its wake. The digital frenzy, which had been a constant, humming background noise in our lives for weeks, simply stopped. The news cycles moved on, finding new scandals to devour. The trolls, their queen dethroned and broken, scattered to the digital winds. In the absence of the war, we had to learn how to just live. It was harder than I expected. For so long, my every thought and action had been a reaction to Bai Shui. My identity had become tethered to hers, the victim, the avenger, the chrysanthemum bride. Now, I had to remember who Lin Mei was without her shadow. Jia Wei, in his steadfast way, became my guide back to myself. He started leaving little notes for me to find. A post-it on the coffee maker, your smile is my favorite sight. Don't let the world make you forget how to use it. A scrawled message on the bathroom mirror, you are not what happened to you. You are what you choose to become. One Saturday morning, he declared we were going on an adventure, confiscated my phone, and drove us out of the city with no destination in mind. We ended up at a quiet, misty lake, where we rented a small boat. For hours, we said nothing, just drifting on the placid water, the only sounds the dip of the oars and the call of distant waterfowl. The peace was a physical presence, healing something frayed and raw inside me. You're quiet, he said, his voice gentle, breaking the comfortable silence. I'm just breathing, I replied, and it was the truth. For the first time in 2 lifetimes, I felt like I could take a full, deep breath without a knot of anxiety tightening in my chest. He smiled, understanding. Good. Keep breathing. When we finally checked our phones on the drive back, the world hadn't ended. There was a supportive message from Xiao Ling and a terse, victorious email from Zhang Jia. Bai Shui's countersuit had been formally dismissed by the court. Our lawsuit against the troll snowflake warrior had been settled out of court, the boy's family had provided a full, written apology, and the damages paid would be donated to a cyberbullying charity. It was over. Truly, legally over. A week later, we were driving back from a movie, the city lights streaking past the car windows. I was laughing about something, my hand resting on Jia Wei's knee, feeling lighter than I had in years. Suddenly, he slowed the car. Ahead, the traffic was momentarily halted. And there, stopped right next to us, was a wedding car, its white ribbons fluttering in the evening breeze. My breath hitched, a primal, conditioned response. But then, the window of the other wedding car rolled down. The bride inside, a young woman with a bright, hopeful face, looked out and saw me. Instead of a phone or a demand, she held up a delicate, beribboned box. She smiled, a gesture of pure, uncomplicated joy. Instinctively, I rolled down my own window. The two drivers, understanding the moment, held the car steady. "Congratulations," the other bride called out, her voice sweet and clear. "For your happiness." She handed me the box. Through the clear window, I could see it was filled with exquisite wedding candies. I was momentarily speechless, the ghost of a similar encounter threatening to sour the moment. But then I looked at her face. There was no calculation, no hidden agenda. Only shared joy. "Thank you," I said, my voice thick with an emotion I couldn't name. I looked around the car frantically. We had nothing to give. Then my eyes fell on the small, elegant silk pouch where I kept my lipstick. It was a deep crimson, embroidered with golden phoenixes, a symbol of resilience and new beginnings. I handed it to her through the window. "For yours," I said, my smile finally reaching my eyes. "May your marriage be strong and joyful." She accepted it with delight, her eyes shining. Our cars began to move again, and we waved at each other, two strangers bound for a moment by a wish for each other's happiness, given freely, without condition or superstition. As we pulled away, I looked down at the box of candies in my lap. They were simple, sweet, and real. No curses, no tricks. Just a gesture. Jia Wei reached over and took my hand, lacing his fingers through mine. "See," he said softly. "Not all meetings on the road are battles." I leaned my head back against the seat, the weight of the jasmine bouquet, the funeral wreath, the legal documents, finally lifting. The hope and happiness on that other bride's face had been a mirror, reflecting the life I now had, the future we were building. "No," I agreed, squeezing his hand. "Some are just reminders. Reminders that happiness wasn't a finite resource to be stolen or exchanged. It was a choice. It was a seed you planted and nurtured every day with trust, with love, with small acts of kindness. It was built, not taken." I looked at my husband, at the city we called home, and at the unopened box of sweet tomorrows in my lap. The past was a closed chapter. The story of Lin Mei was just beginning. 1 year later, the air in the Grand Imperial Ballroom hummed with a different kind of energy than I'd grown accustomed to. It wasn't the frantic, toxic buzz of online vitriol, but the focused, purposeful murmur of several hundred people gathered for a cause. On the banner behind me, the words "The Lin Mei Foundation, Launch Gala for the Digital Resilience Initiative" were elegantly displayed. I stood at the podium, adjusting the microphone. The sea of faces was a blur under the bright lights, but I could pick out a few: Jia Wei, beaming with pride from the front table, Xiao Ling, giving me a covert thumbs up, Zhang Jia, her severe features softened by a rare, approving smile. A year ago, I began, my voice clear and steady, echoing in the hushed room. My life became a very public lesson in how quickly the digital world we've built can be weaponized. I was the subject of headlines, the target of threats, and the center of a story that was never entirely mine. I paused, letting the memory of that time settle in the room, not with fear, but with acknowledgement. But this story isn't about me. It's about the thousands of others who don't have a platform, who don't have the resources to fight back. It's about the silent, shrinking victims of cybermobs, of coordinated harassment, of having their lives twisted into a narrative they don't recognize. I spoke about the Foundation's goals, providing pro bono legal aid, mental health support, and digital literacy programs to help people protect themselves online. I talked about turning my pain into a purpose that was bigger than my own story. As I concluded my speech to resounding applause, I felt a profound sense of closure. The chrysanthemum bride was no longer a label of trauma, but a symbol of transformation. The flowers that had once been a weapon were now a part of my foundation's logo, symbolizing remembrance, resilience, and the beauty that can grow from difficult soil. After the speech, I was surrounded by well-wishers. Donors, activists, journalists asking thoughtful questions. It was in a quiet moment, as I sipped a glass of water near the back of the ballroom, that I saw her. She was standing near the grand entrance, half hidden by a potted jasmine tree. She was gaunt, her once flawless face now etched with lines that no amount of surgery could erase. She leaned heavily on a sleek, metal cane, her body tilted in a way that spoke of a permanent injury. It was Bai Shui. Our eyes met across the crowded room. There was no hatred in her gaze anymore, no triumphant malice. The fire that had once burned there was extinguished, leaving only a bed of cold, dead ash. Her eyes were hollow, filled with a dull, bottomless regret. She wasn't here to cause a scene. She was just watching. For a long moment, we simply looked at one another. I felt a complex swirl of emotions: pity, a residual flicker of anger, but above all, a profound and final sense of severance. She was a ghost from a past life, a cautionary tale given flesh. She didn't smile. She didn't nod. She just held my gaze for a few more seconds, as if trying to memorize the face of the woman whose life she couldn't break. Then, she turned, her movements slow and painful, and limped out of the ballroom, disappearing into the glittering night of the city she had once tried to conquer. I didn't feel a need to follow, to speak, to have a final confrontation. Her presence was the final period on the last page of our story. She had come to see the monument I had built from the rubble she created, and in doing so, had finally understood the true cost of her own choices. A warm hand settled on the small of my back. "Jia Wei. Are you okay?" he murmured, his voice laced with concern. I turned to him, and the sight of his face, so full of love and stability, washed away the last chill of the past. "I'm more than okay," I said, and I meant it. "It's over." He smiled, that easy, heart-stopping smile that had first drawn me to him. "I know. I've been telling you that for months." "I know. But now I finally believe it." Later, at home, I stood on our balcony, the same one from which I had fallen in a different lifetime. The city sprawled before me, a breathtaking tapestry of light and life. The scent of the night-blooming jasmine plant we kept out there was sweet and clean, a fragrance I could finally enjoy without the ghost of a wedding bouquet haunting it. Happiness wasn't a destination I had reached after defeating an enemy. It was the foundation Jia Wei and I had painstakingly laid, brick by brick, over the past year. It was in the quiet mornings, the shared laughter, the unwavering support, the purposeful work. It was a choice we made every single day. Bai Shui had believed happiness was a prize you could steal, a resource you could swap. She was wrong. It was a garden you tended, and mine was now in full, glorious bloom. I took a deep, cleansing breath of the jasmine-scented air, my eyes taking in the boundless, bright future ahead. The girl who had been pushed was gone. The woman who stood here now was rooted, resilient, and finally, completely free.